very excited to introduce our next two speakers who are here. So Dr. Ellen Collingwood and Sirajum Muneera, and they are talking about Radreach. So I'll let you take over.
Hello, good morning. I'm Muneera. I'm one of the radiology registrars in the Wessex Deanery. And
hi, I'm Ellen. I'm also a radiology reg up in Leeds. Down in Leeds.
Today we are here to speak about something which is very, very close to our heart, Radreach, and how I was Rad-Reached. So a bit about me. Before we go into the presentation, I was an international medical graduate from Dubai. I graduated in 2019, very bright, 16 distinctions, first generation doctor, lots of dreams, got stuck with COVID in 2019, and to 2021, just to migrate to UK was difficult, and to obtain a GMC registration was difficult. I come into NHS. I joined as a trust grade SHO in 2022, and that was me in one of my on-call shifts, actually wondering what is actually going on in the NHS. Do I actually get everything here? Do I actually belong here? And to further that, I actually got a placement in radiology in my trust. So I was very excited to go for this placement and then see how radiology is. And I was fortunate enough, I used to be quite active on social media. So I looked up advertisements. I saw an advertisement for Radreach. I wanted to see what it was. So I registered. 2024 was my golden year. I ended up getting into radiology in Wessex, and from being a mentee in Radreach for the past 2 years now, I've been a Rad-Reached mentor. And as nice as the journey sounds, I had my own barriers. My first day in radiology, as a rotation as a trust grade doctor, was I had met up with an NHS consultant, and the first thing he asked me was, "Why do you want to do radiology? It's heavily competitive. You're an international medical graduate. Why don't you aim for GP or something more realistic? I would be surprised if you got in." And I was taken aback. I was like, okay, why is he being that rude to me? Is it, or am I actually not good enough? Am my confidence was completely shattered. And I went on, because I was the trust grade doctor representative. I thought, okay, fine, let me raise my voice. Let me go talk to the head of the department. So I went to have a chat with her, and she came on with, yeah, aren't you guys meant to be for service provision? Why are you actually applying for radiology? Why don't you actually apply for something where you have more spots? Probably you'll be more appreciated. And I look around my department. I couldn't see a single brown, black, or ethnic minority faces. All I saw was just people who did not look very much like me. And I felt like, okay, probably this is not the specialty we should be going for. But good thing was, in 15 days, there was Radreach Engagement Day, and I decided to attend. It was a trip from going from where I lived to go to London, but I did make that trip. And when I made that trip, um, when I made that trip, I got the opportunity to attend 3 talks, which actually made me realize that I belong as much as anyone else does. The first one was by Prof. Amaka Ofia, who's also the head of school for radiology for Sheffield, and vice president for RCR this year. So what she mentioned in her talk was the amount of experiences she had gone through, and one of the main lines she told that sticks with me today is that choose your battles, pick who you want, pick what are the battles you want to get involved in. Not everything is worth your time. And I was like, yeah, that resonates with me. And then I had Jade come in, who's also my current mentor, and who mentored my way into radiology. And she had a very beautiful talk on what's equity, what's equality, and what's actually the difference between equity and equality. Equality was providing everyone equal opportunities, but equity was to provide equal access to the resources. And that's what Radreach was trying to do, and Radreach is doing. And the last talk of that day was by Dr. Anu Baro, who's again another founder of Radreach. And her talk was on why do I want to talk about racism? And they went on into all the experiences they had as women from ethnic minority in radiology, where there was not much representation, which actually led to formation of Radreach. And because I was Radreached, a year later, I ended up with one of the highest portfolio scores for that year's application, 40 in a year's time. I cleared my MSRA at my first attempt for radiology, started training at my first preferred deanery, and all of that because I actually had mentorship, I had guidance, and that's what Radreach was about. It is a national widening participation and mentoring initiative by ASIA designed to support underrepresented groups in radiology. And what does Radreach do? So the things we mainly do is that we offer one-to-one mentoring for students, medical students, and junior doctors from a widening participation background. And we pair them up with current trainees in radiology and also some consultants in radiology. And we also offer portfolio guidance for ST1 radiology recruitment and interview preparation, webinars and workshops on exam preparation, and also a lot of we do collaborations and put people in touch with peer support networks when needed. And one of the main things I really, really, really like and enjoy about being part of Radreach is that it is a safe space for having honest conversations, encouragement, and also representation and visibility as well. One of the key takeaways I did have during this entire period was to stay resilient. It is not about how talented you are, it's more about persistence. And your background does not need to be your barrier. It's your superpower. You can have a different accent. You might not look like the others, but you do deserve to do what you want to do. And Radreach is here to help you if it is radiology. And mentorship matters, but the initial moments of getting uncomfortable and actually understanding what is going on and choosing the right support for yourself matters as well. So always keep up with that. And anywhere, everywhere, communication is key. I have felt so, I have thought about this over the years, like, why didn't I stand up for myself that day? Why didn't I ask, why didn't I ask, why do you think that I don't stand a chance? Like, what makes me different? I did not. But if you are ever faced with similar situations, do stand up for yourself. That is my presentation. Thank you. And if you had any questions in my presentation, now's the time.
We'll do them when both of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. All right, so my name's Ellen. I'm a radiology reg in Leeds, and I'm going to talk a bit about my experiences so far. My experiences with Outreach started when I was at school, so I don't think my experiences are particularly unique. I don't think I have any massive hot takes, but I have been involved in widening participation for a very long time now. So I'll be talking about that, how I got into medical school, being from a widening participation background at medical school and how I found that, the transition into working as a doctor from a widening participation background, and then a bit more about Radreach and training so far and what I've learned from the experiences. This is where I'm from. I'm from North Sheffield. There's not much there in the place that I'm from. It's called Bridge, and this is the bridge. And that was my secondary school, which was mostly those temporary blocks on a field, which were very of the time in the 2000s. And I was a first generation entering into university. So my dad and all of his family were steel workers, which is very Sheffield. And my mum worked in an office. So they worked very hard throughout all of my childhood. And medical school and going to university seemed very far away. My school didn't have a lot of people who went to university and definitely didn't have many people who went to medical school. So for the most part, I was discouraged, I would say. And the encouragement when it was there was not particularly well guided. So when I was in year 9, we had some people from the University of Sheffield come and speak to us about their medicine outreach programme, which at the time was called SOMES, the Sheffield Outreach and Access to Medicine scheme. And from then it was a 2-year programme in your later years of secondary school and then throughout sixth form. So I would go, the picture at the bottom is the Clinical Skills Centre at the Northern General Hospital in Sheffield. We would go there, we'd go to the medical school, go to various lectures, tutorials, dissection, etc. And the idea was to just give some exposure and give us access to current medical students to talk about their experiences. A lot of them were previous SOMES students, so it was really useful to get their perspective and get their guidance. And they gave us a lot of help with things like the UCAS application, personal statements, UKCAT. I did some other things while I was, preparing for medical school. So I worked at that Oxfam shop there. I also volunteered at the Jessup Wing, which is the maternity hospital in Sheffield, doing the tea trolley. And then I really struggled to get work experience. I think that's improved a bit now in terms of access to getting work experience, a bit, but it was really hard sort of 15 years ago to get that. So my mum had her carpal tunnel done when I was about 16, and she asked her surgeon if I could come along for a bit. Not her operation, but for some work experience. And the surgeon was also from a Widening Participation background, so she'd heard of the same scheme and was very happy for me to go and do a week with her, which I did. The QR code is for a link to the Discover Medicine scheme, which is kind of an expanded, slightly adapted version of the same scheme now. It's changed a little bit, but it's still a really fantastic scheme, and I would absolutely not be here today without SOMES. They also gave me a contextual offer as well, which was really helpful because there was no way I was getting an A in chemistry. I didn't. So yeah, I definitely would not be here without SOMES and Outreach. So then I went to medical school in Sheffield. I got in after all the help that SOMES gave me, and it was a bit of a culture shock. I still remember the conversations in Freshers Week about where do you go skiing? I don't go skiing. I've still not been skiing. It's not a question of where. And where did you go to school? And I was like, well, you wouldn't have heard of it. It's here, but why would you have heard of it? Not grasping the context underneath that. So it was difficult at the start to try and find people I related to. And that did carry on quite a lot throughout medical school, though I thought it would be more of a leveller. I was really lucky to receive some scholarships when I was at medical school. So this is the kind of awards ceremony for one of the ones that I got with Dr. Mo Sakur, who's a very successful cardiologist. He owns ID Medical, if anyone's heard of them, the locum agency. So he gives lots of money to the University of Sheffield to disadvantaged medical students, which is really great of him. So yeah, medical school is a bit of a challenge in terms of imposter syndrome as well, which I'm sure is something that everyone's experienced and you carry on experiencing at different points. I did kind of think I've not had the grades to get in here. Do I deserve to be here? Am I going to do well enough to be here? But yeah, I did. So I wanted to segue a bit into jobs I had at medical school. I'm sure a lot of people relate to having lots of jobs to try and make ends meet. This is not all of them. There were even more. Working in a call centre, doing open days, waitressing, being the person with the iPad at the Students' Union. So yeah, I had to do a lot of jobs to make ends meet. That got even worse when it got to NHS bursary time. And I'm really glad that there's a lot more out there about how difficult it is to make things work with the NHS bursary. But then I also got to work with SOMES. So I was really lucky to do paid mentoring for disadvantaged students through the SOMES scheme as well. But then I made it. This is me graduating from medical school. I worked very, very hard in the last couple of years. Too hard, it turns out, because I got honours. This is me and the dean at the award ceremony thing, which is very fun. And it was a big deal for the family to have a doctor in the family and someone that had graduated from university. So the picture on the right is my grandpa's wall where he has copies of my degrees. And he also asked for a copy of my first badge that I had when I was in F1. I just sent that picture to my mum on my first day, but he wanted a picture on his wall. So it was a big deal, and it always is a big deal. So be proud of your achievements. I think starting work as a doctor brought on a new kind of identity crisis, because in a way, I thought it would be the ultimate leveler of everyone being the same. You know, we were all doctors now, we were all earning the same wage. But you realise that these things never entirely go away. And I don't say that to be discouraging to any medical students in the room, just that you will always likely have to work a little bit harder or try a bit harder to make yourself known, because there are certain things that will persist. And the things that I've noticed are kind of confidence, which is, you know, very individual. But I think for me, I've always felt a little bit less confident than perhaps people from different backgrounds. Financially as well, when you start F1, you don't get paid for a month, you're in the absolute pits of your overdraft. And some people found that easier than others. And even going forward, you know, it doesn't mean you're bad with money or terrible at saving or anything like that if you struggle at times. It's just that other people have things behind you that you don't know about, and don't be too hard on yourself. So yeah, the imposter syndrome, identity crises will carry on happening. So this is me during F1. I graduated in August 2019. Not a good time to graduate for obvious reasons. So COVID hit, about 6 months into my F1 year. I found this when I was preparing the slides. This was just a talk that we had from an anaesthetist about how to start CPAP on the ward if they had no ITU beds available. So it was really crazy times, not a good time to be starting F1, very difficult. But when things calmed down, I managed to squeeze in a taste week in radiology. So that's me doing some IR, and I really enjoyed it. I'd not massively considered it before F1, but the radiologists in the hospital I was working at, which was Harrogate Hospital, were really passionate about radiology. They really sold it to me when I went down to discuss scans as a surgical F1, which, shocker. So yeah, I was pretty much sold from that point. I really enjoyed it. Once I finished foundation, I signed up for Radreach, so I was in the first cohort of mentees. The way that it kind of works to get matched up, or it did at the time anyway, I think it is still similar now, is that there's a Zoom call that's kind of like speed dating with mentors. So you all chat to each other, and then you kind of fill in the people that you'd probably like or that you feel you've been matched well with. And I met my mentor, who happened to be a consultant in my region, and we really got on. And then we ended up being matched together, which was really good. So we went for a coffee. It was really nice to meet someone in person, given that it was 2022 post-COVID times. And we just had a really honest chat about how she enjoyed her job, the things that she's done in her career, the things that she still wants to do in her career. And she helped me get some extra taster notes as well. So it was really useful to have that practical advice and the help with the application process as well, because it definitely did add something extra to my application. So then I applied for radiology and I got in. So all that help paid off. I ranked in the top 50 applicants for radiology, and I got my first choice deanery, which is Leeds. So I got to stay in Leeds, and I've loved radiology training so far. I honestly couldn't recommend it enough to anyone. Everyone's been really supportive. Here's us all on strike last time. The consultant, the one where it's consultants and residents. So my mentor is Dr Highland, who is there on the floor. That's me in a bucket hat. That was the only picture I could find of both of us together. So it's a really great supportive specialty, very flexible, very encouraging, and you're really encouraged to do extra things, you know, in your training time, which is exactly how it should be. So these are a couple of research presentations that I've done within the last year or so. One thing that I have noticed when doing radiology is how expensive the exams are, which is not unique to radiology, but you have all of them within the space of 3 years. So that's about £2,000 on exams, and you often have absolutely no notice of when you're going to book them. So I'm thankfully down to the last one now. But yeah, I think that's not the most inclusive thing about radiology, and I really do hope some change comes about in all medical specialties when it comes to exams. I started mentoring for Radreach when I was in ST1. I did think at the time, you know, my mentor was a very experienced consultant. She had a position in training as well. You know, what do I have to offer? But I'd just been through the application process. I had a lot of experience in mentoring and widening participation. So I did have things to bring. It just took me a while to get there to know that I did have things to bring to the table. I've mentored 2 people so far. One of them is now an ST1 in his first choice deanery in London. The other one's having a career break. But it's been really, really rewarding to have these conversations with people. And I really hope to keep on doing things like this in the future. This was an article I wrote in the RCR newsletter about Radreach, which was a really, really fun thing to do. And then we've also done quite a lot of mock interview events recently. We worked with IR Juniors, who are a interventional radiology society aimed at mostly resident doctors, medical students, and radiology trainees latterly as well. And we made sure that all the people on Radreach that wanted one had a free mock interview with a current radiology reg. And we got through absolutely loads and loads of mentees. So I'm really proud that we managed to do that. And a lot of them have been successful, which is great. So what next? I'm about to be ST4. So this when you start your subspecialty trainee, so I'm going to subspecialise in paediatric radiology. I'll talk a bit more about the future in my next talk. I'm back in a little bit. So yeah, that's my plan so far. I'd like to be more involved in things like this, in education. And I think saying yes to things and being involved in things like this really brings extra enrichment to your career. And Rad-Reached has been a massive part of where I've got to today, and I hope to carry on contributing back to that. The kind of key takeaways, I would say share things, be honest about where you come from, where you're going, and it brings an authenticity that people will appreciate. Try not to doubt yourself. It's very hard to say that, but just believe that you've got where you are from your own merits. Even if you have been supported to get there, it's support to get there, and you deserve that if you're from a background that's less innately privileged. Thank you. I'm trying to do LinkedIn a bit more, so if anyone would like to be LinkedIn friends, hit me up, and then I think both of us can take any questions.
Anybody got any questions? Any questions on the Slido? Yes, Chloe.
Hi, hello, I'm Chloe, F2 from Manchester. I think in med school, widening participation was more obvious to me, or it might be because I was at the time. But now you're both a bit more senior. What sort of have you seen that have come from widening participation as we've gone through training, if that makes sense? And do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, I think
like touched on like the exam.
Yeah, you definitely still notice it. I think I've noticed it a bit as I've gotten older in terms of things like what people are able to do to make their lives a bit easier. So whether that's having a cleaner, having a meal delivery service, being able to easily afford all those things, and then suddenly having money for a wedding and a house. So that's when you kind of notice it. I've felt as I've gotten, into my later 20s. Also having the time and space to do things like research, which you don't get a lot of time for as a foundation trainee. You get slightly more allocated time as a specialty trainee. But I do think those are areas where it becomes more apparent.
Yeah. I'm just recently in training. I've been there for a year, and one of the problems I kept facing was I have a very Indianized accent, and I think I come very straightforward when I'm speaking, so my communication skills are still being worked on. And as soon as I had an issue, and I felt like this was just weighing down on me on both training, I did not know if I can actually talk or not talk. Where do I withdraw? And the thing about Radreach is we still keep in touch with our mentors. So I sent in a message in December to my mentor, and I was like, I am pre-exam and I have like so many issues that's piling up. Firstly, my family is not doing well in India. I don't know what to do, and I have like 2 months to go for exam. I'm the only international medical graduate in my program, and if I don't do well in my exams, it won't look well for us. And a lot of these barriers and you get all of this in the back of your head, a voice speaking to you, and you don't know what to do. Always approach your mentor. And so Jade arranged an immediate call with me. She walked me through how we could sort this and how to space yourself out. Don't put yourself under pressure. And whether you have an accent or not doesn't really matter. Just speak and make sure that you're being visible. And if people do ask you uncomfortable questions, stand up for yourself, say, ask them what, like, I think that was the most recent thing I learned. What do you mean? Ask them actually, what do they mean when they say anything? And that could actually make that conversation go much smoother than we'd imagine. Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thank you. Any more questions? Yes, Nicole?
I think one of the reasons that they made Radreach was because the Rad-Reached radiology training in general has had quite poor widening participation kind of backgrounds. I don't have the figures off the top of my head. But I think especially compared to other specialties that I'd worked in, that was quite apparent. So a lot of people that do radiology, less so now, but consultants are previous surgeons, are not from widening participation backgrounds. And I've even noticed that, to be fair, in my cohort of trainees. So before Radreach, I wasn't really aware of that. I kind of assumed it would just be the standard mix of people that you get in any medical specialty, but it is a bit more different to that. So that was probably the one thing that I was aware of.